guess I have swiped my bangs to the side. They were getting super annoying. Bangs take a lot of maintenance, actually. Well, mine do, anyway, because if I don't... Whatever. Anyway, you don't care, but I'm actually gonna get them cut or trimmed next weekend, so I'll probably have them back like they were, like straight across, when I get them trimmed, because they're a little long right now. I don't know, whatever. Also, you notice I have rearranged my office again. It had been a while, but I really am happy with the end result, and I think I'm gonna keep it like this for a long I think I'm gonna keep it like this for a while, so today I'm gonna be reading some paranormal stories for y'all, so get ready. Let's jump right in, shall we? The first one is called My Grandpa Didn't Know He Was Dead. About 10 or so months ago, my grandfather died. It was a sudden death that resulted in a car crash. He never knew what happened. About 2 weeks or so later, I had a dream. He was sitting at his kitchen table, saw me, and asked me, "Where am I? What's going on?" I looked at him and said, "You died." He responded with, "Oh, okay." How wild is that? Like, "You died, Grandpa," and he's just like, "Oh, cool." He didn't really seem too surprised by the news. He went on to say that he keeps seeing this white light and he doesn't know what it is, but that it keeps calling to him. I told him that it's a good place where his brother and mother are. That it's peaceful and full of love. That they're waiting for him and would very much like to see him again. But then I told him in a very important way that it was his choice. He didn't have to go and could wait as long as he wanted. He thought about it for a moment and said he was going to wait a while. I cried and he started to make himself a comfortable home. Then I woke up. I truly believe I got to communicate with him after he died and that he needed me to tell him that he had died. Wow. The next one is called Old Lady on the Bus. I was in bed with my boyfriend and he had fallen asleep. I rolled over and was facing the closet, closed my eyes, and I was on a bus, like an old bus in the 70s or 80s. I could smell the vinyl seats and hear the motor. I was looking directly at an old woman. She had no facial features to describe. A bright purple scarf over her head, white blouse, and sweater. In her lap, she held a handbag tightly. I was staring at her and I thought to myself, "Wake up." When I opened my eyes, she was right in front of me, bent over in my face. Her clothes were fully formed, but no features to describe, just gray swirling almost like dust where a face should be. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, she was gone. I didn't feel anything good or bad from her, yet I feel like I brought her back with me. I say that because I saw her handbag and scarf on 2 separate occasions after this accident. Now I am unsure. Did I fall into her memory? Slip through somehow? Has this happened to anybody else? I've experienced supernatural encounters before, but not like this. The next one is called Possible Mimic. Mimics creep me out. Hi, pretty new to this sub, so not sure if this is a mimic I grew up with or something else. Growing up, I lived in a newly built home, and my parents and I lived there for about 10 years. Every day after school, I would get home and be alone for a few hours until my parents got home from work. I would always hear my mom or dad calling me downstairs to tell me they're home, but every single time I would look out the front windows to see that I was still home alone and that their cars were not parked outside. This happened all the time and it always freaked me out because it sounded exactly like my parents every time. We moved out of the house when I was 18 and I've never necessarily demons. I mean, they could be. I'm not sure, but does anyone know what mimics are? Like, are they ghosts? Are they demons? Are they, like, what the hell are they? I'm curious. If anyone has any information on that, I would love to hear about it. Thank you. The next one is called Help, Shadow Creatures in Our Bedroom. Over the past 8 months or so, when I've been asleep in bed, I'll suddenly wake up as I'm turning over onto my back, and I'll see a dark shadow, blacker than black, with legs on the ceiling in my bedroom. Ew. Legs on the ceiling, what? It's not a humanoid figure, but more of a torso shape. I'll wake myself up saying, "Stop, stop, no," and with my arms stretched out in front of me as if I'm trying to hit it and keep it from coming closer to me. I've seen it, sometimes 2 of them at the same time, at least 5 times so far. No. No. Just no. At first I wrote it off as the shadows from the streetlight playing tricks on my eyes and my brain, or my picture frame on the wall looking strange at night. I also had a bit of anxiety during this time, so maybe that played a part. But then, my boyfriend moved in with me in January, and we were asleep the other night, and suddenly he sits bolt upright in bed and turns the light on, and is staring in the upper corner of the room at the ceiling. I asked him what was wrong, and he said that what looked like the TV with legs was crawling around on the ceiling and coming towards him. What the fuck? I never told anyone about my creepy shadow experiences, not even my boyfriend, so this gave me chills and makes me think there's something really there that we've both seen now. Does anyone have any advice on what to do? We burned some sage in every room this weekend, and I also just bought some sage spray. Also, I have no idea if this is relevant, but we keep finding ladybugs in the house. Oh, that's cute. I've lived here for 4 years now, and this is the first time there have been ladybugs everywhere. I've heard that they're supposed to ward off evil spirits, maybe. Interesting. I don't know anything about that, but that's cute. That's super cute and adorable. The next one is called I Just Had My First Paranormal Experience in My House. Didn't happen to me, but to my dad. I walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water, and my dad walks into the room and asks me if I had used the bathroom in my parents' bedroom. I tell him no, and that I've been in my room. I could tell something was off when I saw the look of fear on his face. He told me that someone was in the bathroom, and it wasn't my mom or my brother because they are asleep. I asked him what he was talking about. He told me he was going to use the bathroom, but he heard loud noises. So he stood by the door, which was open, but didn't walk in because he didn't understand what was going on. He said he thought that for whatever reason someone was using the toilet with the door open, so he continued to wait by the door confused. But then he said that he realized it sounded like something different and that it was too loud to be someone using the toilet. It sounded like someone was vomiting into the toilet because he heard splashing. Then he said he heard the sound of a man gagging and clearing his throat. So he gets concerned and peeks into the bathroom, and nothing. The noises were gone and no one was there. He said he knew what he heard was real, and it was so real that he had to check behind the bathroom door to make sure that no one broke in, and then check the shower, and he said his jaw dropped. He saw soapy water and dirt all over the floor of the shower. Ew. He says he doesn't know how to explain what happened, and neither do I. LOL. If anyone knows what this is about or has any logical explanation, I'd love to hear. Nope. Nothing. I got nothing. The next one is called The Girl in the Blue Dress. This is my favorite paranormal experience to retell. It happened to me when I was very young, around 9, maybe 10 years old. I used to live in these old townhomes. I wanted to do some research on them because all the family paranormal stories happen there. The layout of our house was pretty small. We had the living room as soon as you entered the door, and then a nice little bar facing the kitchen. On the left were the stairs. Anyways, I was sitting in the living room while my grandmother and mom were talking in the kitchen. To be honest, I don't remember what I was doing, but I was sitting on the couch that faced the kitchen. Our bar area had bar stools that you can obviously sit on, and as children we would like to spin as fast as we could on them. We loosened them up to a certain point where they would no longer face straight. They would be facing the stairs. I turned to face the stools, and there was a little girl sitting on one of them. She was looking down with her long hair in front of her face. I remember her vividly, and she was wearing a long blue dress that was a tad bit dirty. There was no negative energy coming off of her, from what I remember. But seeing that as a child is still scary. After a couple of seconds of me looking at her, she turned her head upwards almost to look at me. At the same time, my grandmother asked me if I can get something from her room. So I ran up the stairs. Upon return, she was gone. I don't remember anything other than that moment. It was scary for sure, but I love telling that story to new people. The next one is called Man Completely Transforms. This story is not my own, but happened to my dad's closest friend. We'll call him Dave. He's a very rational man who trusts science, openly scoffs at the paranormal, and has never touched drugs. So to hear him tell the story and be genuinely frightened was shocking for me. Here's his story as he confided to my family. David just concluded a business deal and was celebrating down at the pub. He happened to see the man's son and so got to chatting with him. We'll call him Alan. Alan was friendly enough and asked Dave to visit his house at the weekend to continue their chat. The weekend came and Dave again found Alan to be good company. That's when something weird happened. As Dave sat there, Alan morphed into a completely different person. His facial features, hair, and skin tone just changed then and there as Dave looked on. Only his clothes and voice were the same. Dave was absolutely shocked and tried to rationalize this by suggesting it was a trick. Alan told him there was no trick, this was how he was. Sadly, that's as much detail as Dave got. In shock, he excused himself politely and rang his partner to fetch him as he was too scared to go on the bus. Me and my family couldn't stop laughing. Dave, usually the type to laugh along, got visibly upset. I suggested he'd been drugged. He said he'd not been offered anything to eat or drink and hadn't been robbed. Personally, I still think he was drugged, but have to admit the reason for such an action isn't clear to me. Thoughts? The next one is called Shape-Shifting Entity. I've got a lot of spooky experiences, but the recent one always makes me wonder. This happened to me in my college dorm that's pretty old. So the oldest building was reserved for junior years and senior year students, respectively. The day I moved into the building, a handful of others were also present. The building was constructed as a cross with each wing having 4 rooms. Mine was just before the room at the very center, which meant that if anyone entered this room, I would see them. The owner of that room was hanging out in mine with my door wide open. I was looking out the door when I saw one of my batchmates walk into the other room and not come out. We went and checked, but the person had disappeared into thin air. I was so shocked I laughed in disbelief. We even went to ask whether this person had been in the room, but they had the perfect alibi with witnesses saying she was with them the whole time. I spoke to my warden and found out this sort of thing had been happening for decades in this building. People would see their batchmates, roommates, and friends walk into rooms and disappear. Some would see them in their rooms while others tried conversations with these doubles. The story was always the same, and it was usually the same wing, too. It's been a few years since this happened. I was wondering if something similar ever happened to anyone else. What could this be? Speaking of haunted dorms, I think I've talked about this before. like, there's a sign on it, I forget what it says, but yeah, nobody can go in there. Nobody is living in there anymore. It's off limits. And I've heard stories, like people will hear the sinks in the bathrooms turn on by themselves. Something like pulls the blankets off people at night. Just like a bunch of creepy activity. And no, I never stayed in that dorm, but I just heard stories and I was like, I could never. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so this last one is a little bit humorous. I thought I would end on a more funny note. It's called I Traumatized a Ghost by Accident. For someone to traumatize a ghost and not the other way around. Like, what? I've been lurking on this sub for a while and finally got around to making an account. I figured it was high time to share some of my spoopy stories, of which I have many. To provide some context, my best friend, whom I'll call Cook, and I are roommates. I learned early on that she has this unique quirk of sorts. Her family, more specifically her dad's side of the family, have ghost problems. Uh-oh. To elaborate a bit more, Cook's father, whom I'll call Cruz, witnessed his mother using a Ouija board. No, don't do that. According to Cruz, she used that thing a lot. Why? He even recalled his father telling him to never be in the same room as his mother whenever she used it, and never to use one himself. Good call, Dad. Good call. Ever since then, Cook's family experienced a whole lot of paranormal stuff. Yeah, I wonder why. Because someone was messing with a fucking Ouija board. Do not recommend. I learned about their affliction pretty early on, and throughout our decade-long friendship, I've had many encounters, which resulted in some pretty crazy stories. One such story is about a ghost we named Bell. From our experiences with Bell, he's shy but an overall nice fella. That's good, I guess. He appears to us being primarily Cook, as a transparent white figure that's about 4 feet tall. Pretty much your cliche-looking ghost. My first and only encounter with him was when I was in my room. I was in the process of changing for the evening and was using my phone as a light source. I was too lazy to walk over to the light switch. Now I had my back facing the bedroom door, and I have a mirror in my room, which you can see said door in. Amidst me pulling down my pants, undergarments and all, I briefly saw his white figure standing in my doorway. Poor bastard got a front row seat to see my, nether regions. I remember standing upright in fright, thinking Cook was standing there, and my phone's flashlight suddenly turned off as I turned around. Keep in mind that my flashlight has never done that before. There was nothing around my phone that could have turned it off. My phone was face down on my bed, and it had a full battery too. There wasn't a damn thing that could have caused my device's light to turn off. I'd like to think Bell turned my flashlight off to shield his eyes from, well, seeing where the sun don't shine. But like, why did he show up right when you were changing? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he was necessarily traumatized as much as being a peeping Tom. We've heard multiple stories about like people feeling watched while they're taking a shower, or like ghosts straight up watching them in the shower. So we know there are perv ghosts out there. This is nothing new. I ended up standing in the dark, bare ass, wondering what the hell I just saw. Figuring I was seeing things, I finished changing and went to bed. The following day, I told Cook about what I saw. Well, imagine my surprise when Cook's face lit up. Apparently, Belle was so traumatized from seeing my naughty bits, he ran over to Cook's room and lay on her bed for comfort. Cook was half asleep when she spotted a white figure mere inches from her face. Apparently, Belle must have thought she recovered from seeing me in my birthday suit. Thanks for reading. That's hilarious. Like I said,